Screw the questions, I'm letting you in. Look, as soon as that door opens, get to the supply store immediately.
So I reviewed Icon, reviewed Wicker Man, so now it's time to review the other newish coaster for 2018, and that is Walking Dead The Ride at Thorpe Park Resort. It is the retheme of a family coaster, you heard me, family coaster, called X, which used to be at the park for quite a while. It's quite old, and they changed it into a horror IP, because that just really does make sense, doesn't it? So I'm just going to get on with this, because I don't want it to be a 10-minute review like the other ones, so let's get into it. The queue itself on the indoor section is no longer a queue, it's actually just corridors that you walk down to get to the ride. That's basically its only purpose now. So on the outside, the entrance has been replaced by a decently themed watchtower, and that houses the pre-show, but I'll get onto that in a minute. So with the queue on the inside now being used as a walkthrough section, I guess, they've moved the queue outside, and the outside queue, it's not really well themed, but it's still decent for what it is. It's a bit of a cattle pen queue line, so it goes back and forth quite a bit, and there's not much to look at other than the watchtower, which is quite well themed. There's signage on fences and stuff. The fences are well positioned. That was about to sound really sad. I don't know why I was about to say that. So obviously I mentioned the watchtower. It has a baggage hold to the left of it, and obviously, as I said, decently themed for what it is. And then you go into the pre-show. Now, bear in mind, this was made by the same people who made the Wicker Man pre-show, and that pre-show is amazing, and it really builds up the ride really well. And this one was a bit of a letdown, but at the same time wasn't awful. It's kind of hard to actually tell how good or bad it was. It's basically 3 screens in this small room. The storyline is explained a bit, how the walkers are getting into the safe zone, blah blah blah, and there's a screen behind which as walkers try and get through, and it's kind of smashed. That looks cool. It's a shame that it only works half the year, but other than that, there's not really much to it. It's not a good pre-show, but it's not a bad one either. It's kind of sets up the ride for what it is, I guess. So then you're down into the corridor walkthrough, as I like to call it. Literally, you're walking down corridors forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever until you finally get to the... No, okay, right, we've just got some ramps to go up first. Okay, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, right, we're finally at the ride now. And you may be thinking, have I just skipped a lot of stuff? For those who haven't been on it, have I just skipped a lot of things? No, I haven't. Nothing happens in that entire walkthrough. It's basically an anticipation scare. It's not even that. Basically, you're just walking down, there's no scares, there's nothing, it's just the anticipation of someone jumping out and scaring you is what scares people. You're just walking down, there's slight music, and also really loud sound effects as well. When you get towards the ramp part, there's a really loud van horn, I think it is, and that is so loud, and that's probably the main jump scare there. It's not really a jump scare, but if you're not expecting it, I could see how that would kind of scare someone. So once again, the theming in there is decent, not gonna lie, it's quite good. The lighting is all red, and then you go into the station. The station is quite small because it's obviously X's old station. And yeah, you're pretty much on the ride. Before you even get on the ride, there's a little dispatch effect that actually comes on. I don't think it was working for half the year, which is expected from Thorpe Park. You then take a right out of the station. There's some curtain thing that opens. I guess that's to block the light, but there's not really much light anyway, so I don't know why they did that. You climb up the lift hill. There are 4 lights positioned on the left of the lift hill, and those occasionally break and go out. It's an effect, so just whatever. And then you drop down. By the way, I'm not going to be explaining the layout because it's the same as X's old layout, and there's no point really explaining it, so I'll just go through what happens during the layout. So you drop down, go around a few turns and stuff, and then you're up into the first brake run. There's many brake runs on this ride. There's a few flashing zombies that light up different colours. They light up blue, some of them light up orange, yellow, red. Just turns and hills, more of that kind of stuff, and then you go into this like upwards brake run where there's just a sound effect, say help us or something. That bit of the ride is very it's not very good. It's more just half-assed in my opinion. And the whole experience itself, I prefer the second half to the first half, and I know a lot of people say that as well. I just don't find there's anything to the first half, because obviously in the second half you have actors, the theming becomes a lot better, the sound effects and stuff get a lot louder, and it just builds up more of an anticipation to get scared, which in the end you actually do by the actors and just by the dark corridors that end up being there when you exit the ride. So back onto the ride itself. I don't know why I went off on a ramble there. So you go down from that upwards brake run, and this is probably where it starts to get pretty good. There's a screen, and the guy who you see in the pre-show, I can't remember his name. I think it's Dylan, maybe? I'm not sure. Correct me on that one. I'm not big on Walking Dead or whatever the ride is. But yeah, you drop down and there's a screen, and he's shooting walkers that are coming towards him. There's some theming around that screen as well. And then as soon as he shoots, up you go into the best part of the entire ride. The ride itself, by the way, it's not my favourite part of the experience itself, but it's probably my favourite part of the ride layout. You then come into a brake run. That sounds really sad. I'm not saying that brake run's my favourite part, but here's what happens on that brake run. If you've been on the ride, you'll know this is actually quite a cool effect. They've programmed it so that he kind of searches everyone, and then the walkers are there to your left, and the train tries to move forward and it jolts back, and it does that about 3 times before he finally makes it work and you go down another drop. That bit's probably the best for me, because it's a very, well, it was unexpected the first time I went on it, but it kind of jolts you back a few times, and it's quite a cool effect. I really do like it. And then you drop down, there's smoke machines that come up, there's more zombies that just flash up, and then you kind of go up a bit and into the final brake run. The final brake run does have a little show thing to it, I guess you could call it that. It's literally the lights on the left of you just light up, and then they start flickering, and then everything goes off, and then there's just air cannons and zombies. So that's pretty much it. A quick turn to the right and into the exit station, I guess you could call it, because it's not actually, it's unload station. That's the technical term. See, roller coaster technical terms with DigitalDan. That's a new series coming soon, watch out for it. You then make your way into a canteen area. Now this bit's probably the best part of the entire experience. Yes, the exit corridor is the best part. That's something I shouldn't say, but it really is. You go into this canteen, there's a few actors here and there, and then they could chase you down the corridors, they could not, but again, it's just corridors again. But this time it's more anticipation scare, because you know that actors are in there, and they're probably going to come out and scare you. There's even a section where it goes all dark. There's a few other sections, and then right at the end, there was this air cannon that had a sensor on it, obviously, because when you walked out, it would always like push air down onto you. But there was a zombie up there, and that's been removed. I don't know why that's been removed, but later in the year it just went, I guess. But yeah, overall, it's got some good theming, it's got some good scares, especially towards the end. The first half is a bit, like, it's a bit bad, it has no real kick to it. But the second half is a lot better, but it still could be improved even further. So the real question is, was it a waste of money? I believe it probably was. I think there was a lot of potential with X, although they just refurbished it with new I'm a Score soundtrack. They painted it all up, I believe, like the queue line and stuff. Don't get me wrong, I don't really know. And they updated everything. What do? The next year, they rip it out and replace it with something probably a lot worse. I didn't have much of an experience with X, because obviously I only went on it once, so I can't really say much. But I've been on Walking Dead the ride quite a lot now. It keeps growing on me every time. I'm not hating on it, obviously. I'll still go on it every so often. It's still an alright ride, but it's not the best. It could have a lot of improvements which would make it much better. And considering the ride is a horror IP and it's a family coaster and they've upped it to 1.4, I don't think that was a good move on their half. But it's horror and it's an IP, so it's just Thorpe Park, isn't it? Something I've always said in reviews is go get yourself down there to go and ride it if you haven't already, or something like that. I don't think that's necessary for this ride in all cases. If you do like The Walking Dead and you want to try it, I recommend it. Sure, I'm not a big fan of The Walking Dead, obviously, and I wasn't a big fan of the ride, so that's probably why I didn't really like it that much, because I'm not a big fan of The Walking Dead. But if you're a coaster enthusiast and you want to try it out, I recommend just coming to Thorpe Park and just to kind of do other rides, but also try that out when you're at the park. I don't think it's worth the trip that some have to make, but yeah, if you have been on the ride, tell me what it's like in the comments, because I'd like to know your reviews. See if they're any different to mine, see if you actually like it, see if you love it, or if you just completely hate it, or if you're with me and you're kind of 50-50 with it. But yeah, thank you for watching, and one last thing, thank you everyone for 1,000 subscribers, it really does mean a lot. I do want to make a sub special, but I'm not sure how long it will be until that happens. Anyway, thank you for watching.
Well, I guess you was right. Yeah. Well, you right now. Yeah, you right now. I guess you was right. Yeah. Where you right now? I need you right now. I guess you was right. Well, you right now. Yeah, you right now.